My name is Sherry Brewerth. I'm with the Alumni Association, and we are so excited to be featuring some of our alumni authors this morning. So today we're going to be featuring Jessie Byrd. So Jessie has had a great career working with different children's books and award-winning books. A couple of the books that we aren't going to feature today, but I wanted to tell you about was King Penguin and Real Jungle, both award-winning books. Today, we're going to be featuring a book called Sunny Days, and this is from an alumni author, Gaucho proud 2010 alumni, Jessie Byrd. And now we're going to bring it over to Jessie. He can tell you a little bit more about himself and share this wonderful book with us. Thank you for being here, Jessie.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. As Sherry mentioned, my name is Jessie Byrd. I'm a children's book author, which means I write the words, but I do not draw the pictures. I am terrible at drawing. I'm actually going to show you a little bit of my drawing later so you can see why nobody ever lets me illustrate my own books. There's a good reason for that. But to get started, I'll tell you just a little bit about myself before we get kicked off into our story time today. So, name is Jessie Byrd, born in Oakland, California, 1987. That's me taking a nap. That's also me with my belly out, sleeping with my pops. This is me in first grade. That's my best friend, Keys. She's still my best friend to this day. I played baseball when I was a kid, but I was terrible at baseball. I could only catch and throw with the same hand. So I have to wear the glove on my right hand, take the glove off, grab the ball out of the glove. At that point, everybody was home safe. Definitely wasn't going to be playing baseball at UCSB. I played basketball in high school at Bishop out in Oakland. I show this picture to show once upon a time I did have hair. Those days are gone, but once I do have the proof. So played basketball at UC Santa Barbara. Had an amazing time, met a lot of amazing people, and I still cherish it as one of the true bright spots before I transitioned into storytelling and into writing full time. So that in mind, that's just a little bit about me and a little bit about my background before we jump into our actual story for today. So this story is called Sunny Days, written by me, illustrated by Anastasia Koo. Loosely takes place in New Orleans, where my family is from. Even though I grew up in California, about 95% of my family lives in New Orleans proper. So that is home, and I go there often, going back in a couple of weeks. Now, if you take a look at this page, everybody take a good look, take a mental snapshot, because everything on this page is somewhere in the story. We call this our clue page. And so we put all the clues. Some of these things are going to be easy to find. Some of these things are going to be hard to find. But at the end of the story, we're going to come back to this clue page, and I want you to think about which things you saw, which things you didn't. And so it's a little game inside of the story. So this is Sunny Days. Martine is skipping to school. She stopped to take a peek inside of Mr. Pip's bakery. His shop always smelled of delicious cupcakes, sprinkles, and warm strawberry icing. How many of you like cupcakes? Raise your hand if you like cupcakes. If that's a thing, if that's a thing. All right, nice. Hey, Mr. Pip, Martine screamed. Mr. Pip was so surprised he nearly dropped his cake. Next, Martine stopped at Miss Shirley's music studio. Miss Shirley's students played the most beautiful music you could ever hear. Sometimes they would come outside and play songs for the whole neighborhood. People would rush out of their homes and shops carrying fancy umbrellas and dance right in the street. Everyone loved it. So what Martine is describing is something called a second line. It really happens in New Orleans where people come outside with tubas and trombones and drums, and they play music and they dance in the street and they have a good time. Hi, Miss Shirley, Martine yelled. Martine slapped the window and waved with both hands. Now, you may not know this, but Martine loves peaches. She loves to feel the fuzzy skin and taste the sweet juice inside. Mr. Johnny's grocery had peaches so big it needed to hold them with two hands. Hi, Mr. Johnny, shouted Martine. Mr. Johnny was so startled he tossed his apples into the air. Okay, everyone, I'm going to ask you to think about a question at this point. What type of animal, if you had to guess, do you think Mr. Johnny is trying to build with his apple statue? What type of animal does that look like to you? I want you to think about that. I want you to think about it because that's going to come back later. We're going to bring that up after the story and some other stuff I'm going to show you. But just tuck that in your mind. Oh, hello. Good to see you too. So cute. Later that day, the rain outside was scary. Martine's mom came to pick her up early from school. We're taking a surprise trip to Grandma, she said. Daddy's gonna meet us there. On the drive to Grandma's, the heavy rain sounded like static. Psh, lightning flashed in the sky as if someone were playing with a big light switch. The wind blew so fast the trees looked like they would be snatched right out of the ground. And thunder shook the earth as if giants were jumping nearby. When they arrived at Grandma's, Martine had to take a bath. Then her dad pulled her favorite crocodile blankie out of his suitcase and wrapped her up in it. The family rushed to the living room as Grandma clicked on the news. There was a terrible storm on the TV. Hurricane Willis is bringing in a lot of rain, said the reporter. That's our house, Martine yelled. Once it was safe to go home, Martine's neighborhood wasn't as she remembered. The sweet smells, pretty colors, and beautiful music had all disappeared. For days, people stood around sad looking at their houses and shops until one afternoon, Martine got an idea. That next morning, Martine jumped out of bed. She wiggled into her school clothes. She brushed her teeth in a flash. She gobbled up her breakfast. Yum, yum, yum. She swiped her lunch from the kitchen counter. Then she burst through the front door and looked up to the big blue sky. Hey, Grace, hey, she shouted. Every morning, Martine did this same thing with the same excitement. Hey, Lisa girl. Bonjour, Penelope. Hello, Jill. Good day, Charlie. Hola, Luca. Hi, Drew. Okay, I want you all to think about at this part of the story. This is question number 2. Who Martine might be talking to right now. Who do you think or guess Martine could be talking to at this part of the story? I want you to think about that. Who could she be talking to right now? Okay, let's find out. One day, Mr. Johnny stopped Martine on her way to school and asked, Martine, little girl, who in the world are you talking to? People on TV name the rainy days Willis. Well, I wanted to name the sunny days too, Martine whispered. Mr. Johnny looked like he'd seen a ghost. He reached behind him for his chair and plopped down in it. When people came to see if he was okay, Mr. Johnny told them exactly what Martine had said. And as Martine was skipping home from school that day, something strange happened. People were sweeping dirt out of their shops, putting in new windows, painting store signs, and carrying big, big bags of garbage out of their homes. Martine helped where she could. And before long, their neighborhood looked even better than before. People threw a big party in the street to celebrate. Miss Shirley's students played music with their new instruments, and Mr. Pip baked a cake long as a picnic table covered with delicious frosting and purple sprinkles. Okay, if you can see, this is question number 3. If you can see the cake in this picture, I want you to raise your hand if you can find the cake. Can you find the cake? Oh, look at that. That was quick. That was quick. That was quick. Nice. Nice. Very good. So think about how big that cake must be if we can see it this well from this far away. We basically have a bird's eye view of the scene. We're going to talk about that in a minute. There's always a camera, some type of camera capturing the scene from some angle. We're going to talk about that and why that's important in storytelling. At the parade, Mr. Johnny walked up to Martine carrying the biggest peach he'd ever seen. It was so plump, she really did have to hold it with 2 hands. Martine danced, holding her peach and smiling from ear to ear. People in her community found new joy and strength in each other and in themselves. And that is the end of Sunny Days, which means we are right back to our clue page. So think about which of these things you may have seen, not seen in the story. I'll give you all a clue. I'll give you all a secret, should I say. There's one page that has more clues on it than any other page. It's like a treasure chest of clues. I will show you this page, but you gotta keep it a secret. You can't tell anybody else. All right, so this page here has the most clues of any page in the entire story. You can see the gentleman in all brown carrying the red case. You can see the lady in the purple coat walking the white dog. You can see the new buildings in the community, all of these things. So while there are clues on other pages, no one page has more clues than this. So at the end of every story, we like to tell you a little bit about ourselves so that you can get to know us. So we're not just names on the page, so that if we ever have an interaction, maybe like this or in person later on, we can know a little bit about each other, and hopefully it'll encourage you all to share as well. So because Martine loves peaches, we decided to talk about some of the things that we love. So Anastasia Koo, who drew all the pretty pictures in the story, she loves creating new worlds, playing music, Her Wonderful Life, Harry Potter books, and Chubby Animals. I love writing stories, reading books, playing video games, watching movies, warm popcorn, French toast, and my wifey mom. So those are the things that I love, who's also a UCSB alumni, class of 2009. That's where we met. And so there's a few things that I want to show you, a few secrets that I want to show you about these types of stories. So in almost every single story like this, there's something called a color palette or a color theme. That's going to be the 2 or 3 most important colors that they want to use again and again and again throughout the story. So for our story, for this particular story, our 3 most important colors are yellow, purple, and green. Now, why did we use those colors? Well, because this story takes place in New Orleans, and those are the colors of a festival called Mardi Gras that happens every year in New Orleans. So we took the colors of that festival that's so famous for the city, we made them a little bit brighter, we made them pastel, and then we decided to use them throughout the story. So now that you know the secret, think yellow, purple, green, think yellow, purple, green. Okay, I go to the very next page. Raise your hand if you can see yellow, purple, and green somewhere on this page. All 3 colors, boom. Boom, that was quick. Nice. All right, what about this page? Raise your hand if you can see yellow, purple, green somewhere on this page, all 3 colors. Yeah, 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 very good, very good. And what about this page? Raise your hand if you can see yellow, purple, and green, all 3 colors somewhere on this page. Spot them, spot them, spot them. Nice, very good, very good. So the shades may change just a little bit, maybe a darker green or a lighter green, darker purple or a lighter purple. But no matter what, we're going to try to use those colors as much as we can. We may make them really sneaky, like the crayons on her desk, really, really sneaky. Or like the jungle gym, the playground in the background, purple, yellow, green, purple, yellow, green. Or um, like the trash on the ground or the buildings. So even when the mood changes and it gets a little sad, we still try to stay with our 3 most important colors. Why do we do that? Well, it's a part of something called world building. We're trying to make you feel like you're in one world, one place throughout the entire story. One of the ways we can do that is how we use our colors, picking a theme and kind of staying with it. Movies and TV shows and cartoons do the same thing. And so it's always a part of visual storytelling. And just to give you an idea of how these stories come to life, whenever we have a story idea, first thing we do is we have to outline it. We have to think about how we're going to make that story. Like every building has a blueprint. We got to think about that. Every story has an outline. Then we sketch. So we do everything in pencil first, mostly pencil, before we move on to color, because we're going to make mistakes. We're going to make things bigger and smaller. We're going to want to change stuff. So when we're done with that, we pop everything into full color. So there are 3 steps. Get the idea out of your mind and into some sort of blueprint. Then you start drawing with your pencils, erasing stuff, making it bigger, making it smaller, adding people, taking them away, all that stuff. And then you pop it into full color once it's done, once you've made all of your changes. That's how we make our stories. It's not the only way to make a story, but that's how we make our stories. Now, let's talk about where stories can come from. Stories can come from what we call, at least for us, they come from the 3 E's. 1 is experience, things you've been through. Number 2 is education, things you learn, talking to somebody, reading a book, podcast, however you learn. And then number 3 is exploration, whether that's exploring locally or globally. Those explorations can lead you to come up with story ideas. So this is something called dinner in the sky. Imagine sitting at your dinner table right now and a crane comes and lifts you up, 50 stories in the sky. And then you just hang there for like an hour, hour and a half, and eat your lunch or eat your dinner. So this is what it looks like when you look down from dinner in the sky. And the reason why this was important for me is because I'm afraid of heights. And this is something that was really going to stick out in my mind as a memory. And then I can use that memory to help me write stuff. It becomes material to help write stuff. And so it's really, really helpful when you use your memory. So lived in Dubai for 2 years, and falcons in Dubai are treated a lot like dogs and cats in the US. You can take your bird on an airplane, you can take your bird to a restaurant, which is really, really cool. We also took this picture because my last name is Byrd. This is a bird. We thought that was funny. If you have any good puns, drop them into the chat. I am a fan. Now, this is probably my favorite place on planet Earth. This is Giraffe Manor in Kenya. And because of this trip, we are working on a story about this particular experience. And so that story may have never come to mind or been inspired if it had been for this trip. So I'm showing these pictures because these are where some of our stories come from. Honestly, this is some of these trips, some of these experiences are exactly where we get our ideas and our inspiration to write children's books. Basically, here they're taking care of the giraffes. They're trying to raise their population numbers back up and re-release them out into the wild. They take awesome care of these giraffes. Learned something really cool that I didn't know. Maybe you all already know, but it was new to me that every giraffe has a different skin print. So just like all of us have different fingerprints, we have our own fingerprint. Every giraffe skin print is slightly different than another's. They're learning the same thing about zebras. Every zebra stripes, their pattern is uniquely their own. And so that's really, really cool. Now, this is something called a giraffe kiss. How many of you would kiss a giraffe? Raise your hand if you would kiss a giraffe. Let's see. Okay, one, two, nice, nice. The Jewel family, yep, nice. And so, yeah. So I have to admit, my wife did it first. I did it after. Kissing a giraffe is very slimy. It's a slimy experience. But here's the good news. Here's the good news. It's one of the cleanest kisses in nature. They have something called an antiseptic on their tongue, which means if you had a cut or a wound and a giraffe licked your cut or wound, it could actually help clean it and help you heal properly. So, again, these experiences are really, really good when it comes to having material for writing children's books. My first job after UCSB, I was working at Google, so I was working in tech. I don't know if these experiences would really mean too much to my job in tech, but it means a lot to my job as a children's book author. I can use this stuff. I can use this stuff. And so, last thing I'll show you from this trip, imagine waking up 7 a.m. on the second floor. You go to your bedroom window, you pull back the curtain, and then boop, there's Stacy the giraffe with her head in your window. That's like how close at 7 a.m. Now, why does Stacy have her head in your window at 7 a.m.? Well, Stacy knows everybody who stays here gets a big bowl of food to feed the giraffes. Stacy is first in line for the cafeteria. She won't be late. They told us she would be first, and she was first, and she stayed as long as we fed her, but we had to save some food for the other giraffes who weren't as early risers as Stacy. So this is a jaguar we got to meet in Belize. I got to get really, really close to him and hang out with him. Really cool. Third biggest cat on the planet, behind tigers and lions in that order. So that was really cool. Now, these are elephants that took us through the Thailand jungle. We based the story in Thailand just because of this experience. And whenever we're making a story, we like to make sure that whatever experience or community is reflected on the page, they're a part of the creative process. So because these are Thai characters in this story and it's taking place in Thailand, we wanted an illustrator who was born and raised in Thailand, just to reflect one lens on the authentic experience of that community. It's really important to us in any story we do that. Now, how many of you are ticklish? Raise your hand if you're ticklish. I'm ticklish. That's why I'm raising my hand. Okay, cool. This is the most ticklish thing I've ever done. Imagine sticking your feet inside of a fish tank. Then hundreds of fish, they swarm to your feet and they're sucking in between your toes and they're sucking underneath the arch of your foot and they're behind your heel. It is the most ticklish thing ever. But again, it becomes good material for children's books. I never knew what it was like to be tickled by fish. I never knew what it was like to kiss a giraffe. I never knew what it was like to have dinner hanging from a rope 50 stories in the air. All of these things can become parts of stories or entire stories, depending on how you want to spin out that thread. And so I just wanted to show you some of the inspirations for some of the things. We also take a lot of pictures of buildings because there's almost always a building inside of a book. So we like to get inspiration from the real world. And whenever we travel, we like to take pictures of places. So this is Spain. Also Spain for any soccer and football fans. This is Paris. This is Italy at the Duomo. This is the ancient Mayan ruins of Belize. And this is Greece. So what I mean by we take pictures of the architecture, we may take something that looks like the ancient Mayan ruins of Belize and mash it up with the Eiffel Tower in Paris and create something for our story that looks new but feels familiar. Like you're like, I've seen that before, but I haven't quite seen it that way. And so that's one of the ways we shortcut architecture and we create the stuff that the world of our stories. So all of these things are important when we're thinking about how we create our children's books. And so I know we are at our time right now. If there was any questions that anybody had, I'm more than happy to answer them. Yeah, is anything on anybody's mind? Because I know, let's see, these are all pictures that we take when we're looking for inspiration. Oh, the last thing I wanted to show you, this is my drawing. So as promised, this is my masterpiece. It took me 30 minutes to do this. And I don't think this is quite publishing quality. And so I text my buddy in Thailand. And I say, hey, can you help me out? I'm trying to draw the cover of this book, but it's not really coming out too well. Can you help me? And he says, okay, give me an hour, and I'll take whatever it is you did here, and I'll turn it into my style. So in 1 hour, he took this and turned it into this. Right, so much better. Right, so much better from this to that. Another example of one of my masterpieces for another book cover that we're working on with an illustrator out of the Philippines, Kay Salvador. And I said, Kay, this is what I'm trying to do for the cover. Will you help me out, please? She says, okay, give me 30 minutes and I'll send you back a sketch because I don't know whatever it is that you're doing here. And I said, cool, 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, she took this and turned it into this. so, so I say all that to say storytelling really is a team sport at every level. Children's books, we have sometimes 4 people who work on a story: an author, an illustrator, an editor, and an art director. For adult books, there's at least an author and an editor. And you see authors thank their editors profusely all the time because it really is a team sport if you want to get the best product in front of your customers. So you at least need somebody else to help you along the way if you really want to make sure it's the best it can be. So I think that's important because I don't know if storytelling is spoken of as a team sport too often, especially when it comes to publishing. But I believe it is, and that's just my belief. So does anybody have any thoughts, ideas, or questions that you wanted to share with me before we go our separate ways? Are you all good? Not seeing anything in the chat either. So I think we may be clear.
Well, Jesse, thank you so much. That was wonderful. And not only was the book just fun and inspiring and lovely, but just getting to know your process a little bit. And thank you for sharing that with us. That takes a little bit of, I know, to share those personal things out and explain them so well. It was just so enjoyable. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you all felt it was worth your time. I just dropped a link into the chat. If anyone would like a signed, personalized book, more than happy to make it out to you and your family and whoever you'd like, and make it a little bit special. I'll personally send it out just because you all are alums. So I'll put that touch on.